Joe, Ole Miss versus Kentucky, arguably the game a season ago that kept the Rebels out of the playoffs here, Joe, as they did beat the Georgia Bulldogs, but did follow up short to one team, that being the Kentucky Wildcats. Joe, Ole Miss coming off a win, Kentucky coming off a win, beating Toledo 24-16. Is Mark Stoops going to do this again to Ole Miss, or is Ole Miss going to be pissed off enough to get their revenge?
Okay, so that's where I stand, and I know it's going to happen. The Kentucky fans are going to come in the comments because they did it last year when we said that Kentucky was going to get blown out. They all hopped in the comments and called us a bunch of doofuses for saying that was going to happen. We were. And they're all going to hop in the comments. And they're going to say, like, you guys said Kentucky was going to get blown out last year and you were wrong. I think Lane Kiffin's incredibly vindictive. I think he's one of the most vindictive coaches in college football. And I think that he knows that Kentucky loss screwed them out of getting to the college football playoff. And more importantly, I believe he's going to take that frustration out on Kentucky this week. This is the situation where he should actually do it. I think this Kentucky program got better from a year ago, but they still have a lot of issues, man. Zach Calzada was awesome at Incarnate Word. He was not awesome against Toledo. They had one of the biggest challenges out of any Power 4 team this past week. Toledo is a damn good team with a bunch of NFL guys on that defense. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren was all over the place making plays for that Toledo defense. And they couldn't move the ball through the air. 85 yards passing for Calzada. They did run the ball well, but it just does not feel like, once again, they're explosive enough to really threaten an opposing defense. And it doesn't help in a matchup like this where Ole Miss's athletes were starting to show up in that game against Georgia State. The one thing before I kick it back to you, Blake, I got to see Austin Simmons reel in some of the mistakes that he made. He made a couple of real first-time starter mistakes. I thought that he made some prolific throws, and the ball was just ripping off his hand. It was flying out of his hand. He was just getting it out super quick, decisively. He was delivering the ball to his guys to make plays. But the two picks that he had against Georgia State were frustrating, and they're picks that Kentucky absolutely will take advantage of. And we saw that last year. You make a mistake against Kentucky, they will slow the game down. They will put you in a rock fight, and they'll win the game that way. You can't turn the ball over against Kentucky ever under Stoops. I'm going to stick with Ole Miss to win this game, and I think that they're going to win it pretty handedly.
You always want to tame a dragon to act like a labradoodle. You never want to get a labradoodle to try to act like a dragon. What I mean by that is every throw that he made it with serious conviction. Sometimes a little bit too much conviction. And he got picked off twice. When I watched Ole Miss last week, I don't know what to really make of them, and I really have no idea what to make of Kentucky. And I agree with you that Toledo is a team that, well, Joe, I mean, a lot of people thought that could have been a long shot for the playoff in reference to the highest G5 team getting in. But that's not the worry for me with Ole Miss. I think Kentucky is not going to win this game. I'm with you there. Ole Miss gave up 191 yards on the ground. 191. I feel like I know Pete Golding well enough to know that he just didn't show much. They were in base a lot. They didn't do a lot of things special. But, Joe, they didn't tackle well in space. They didn't. Blake, we only gave up 3 points. What in the hell are you talking about? You gave up 191 yards rushing. You got to the red zone, and you were really locked down. And when Georgia State had to make throws, they were god-awful. But, Joe, the God's honest truth is that, quite frankly, they ran the ball all over them. 191 yards is 191 yards. I don't care how it comes. Again, it's week one. But you're going to tell me that you had the first time in over a month to go hit somebody that doesn't wear your same jersey that you do, and you just defensively wanted to lay down? I don't know if I buy that. They were rotating in a lot of guys. I get what they're doing. I'm not saying it's the end-all, be-all. you can't let a team like Kentucky that has no real presence on the outside, that doesn't want to throw the football, to do the one thing that they want to do, run the football. So that's all that they have. They had multiple guys go over 75 yards. They had, you're talking about Dante, who went over 129. McGowan went over 75. I mean, they ran the football all over Toledo. That's what they want to do. I get it's Toledo. I think Lane is that vindictive, though. I think that he has been circling this one for quite some time, and he wants to take it to him. I know that Austin Simmons threw 2 interceptions. I know that Arch Manning didn't look good, but there were some things on all of these first-time starters that I came away with a lot of positives. Austin Simmons is in that one. He's in that. And he got confused a couple of times. You can't get confused against Stoops. That's one thing I'm going to give him. He will confuse the shit out of him, or at least he's going to try to. You got to be prepared to not make those mistakes. If there's an avenue, last thing I'll say here, if there's an avenue for this game to be close, Joe, if he does turn the ball over like he did against Kentucky, they could make some things interesting if they play ball control and try to play really good defense.
Yeah, and here's one thing that if anyone remembers from the Ole Miss loss last year, I really was upset and bothered by how Lane Kiffin called that game. He, for some reason, abandoned the passing attack, he abandoned the run game and overemphasized throwing the football. They had way too many passing attempts in every situation.
In the rain.
No, that wasn't.
Yes, it was. In the rain.
Beginning of the game. I don't know if it rained the whole game.
I remember they got beaten. It was raining. It was drizzling.
I don't remember that the weather was.
It was raining.
My point is that I remember watching the game and watching Jackson Dart roam around on every single play. Nothing was open because they just dropped back into coverage and they were expecting pass. They have to get Kawan Lacey involved.
Talk about
early.
It. Showing. Talk about it. Showing.
He played really well, man. I think that he's a gifted player for what they need at running back. And it's the type of guy that they didn't have last year. It's the type of guy that they needed production from in their run game. He's got to step up. That is going to be, I think, the biggest trigger for their success is, can a little bit of pressure come off of Simmons' shoulders, and can he have those big runs and those big plays in goal line situations like he did against Georgia State?
Well, they got to run the football very well for Austin Simmons. I felt like Lane went out there and said, we're going to give this kid as many reps as we can. Yeah. And Joe, I think they're going to go into Kentucky and try to run the football a lot. By the way, Logan Diggs made an appearance. I kind of feel like that they were keeping Logan Diggs out of this one coming off the injury. They gave him some carries, let him get hit a little bit. Lacey and Diggs, bro, that's some physical running. Some physical running now. And you give Lane Kiffin 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5 a lot, and you're going to get your ass whooped. You're going to get, because he's perfect when he's got a run game, because he confuses the shit out of you. You're right. The ultimate thing is, can Austin Simmons wear this thing down? But look, Dante and McGowan did run for a lot of yards, Joe. Can they keep that going? Will be interesting for Kentucky.
I just before we get out here, I want to harp on the one thing.
-10.5 on FanDuel, by the way.
-10.5 on FanDuel. I'm probably going to take Ole Miss to cover on FanDuel. I want to harp on this, though. I just think back to 2023, Georgia beats Ole Miss 52-17. That was one of the most embarrassing losses for Ole Miss. It derails their season. The year doesn't end as excitedly as it could, and they realized they needed to be super aggressive in the transfer portal. I really think that the way that Ole Miss showed us what they're going to do when they get revenge, how they beat Georgia last year, they put all their energy in beating Georgia last year. I think that we're going to get an example of that against Kentucky. I think he's going to try and beat this team by more than 10 points. And if he gets a chance to, he might even try to run up the score.
Well, but here's the thing. He's got to be composed. Because when Lane gets erratic, like the whole, Bama year, and he gets too much in his head. He tries to do too much. I felt like he actually tried to do that last week with Austin Simmons to some regard.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that if he gets a chance, he's definitely going to do that. Before we get out of here, let me ask you this question. You seeing all these people from Bama wanting to fire Kalen DeBoer?